Hi everybody, it's Angelia. Welcome back to Read and Reread. Coming to you now from my new house. It's pretty chaotic right now. As you can see, I have nothing on the shelves but a rubber alligator and an old globe. And this side is just boxes and mayhem. So we've been here for a couple of days and I haven't worked in the library at all because I've been trying to get other places set up just for everyday function. The kitchen, the bathrooms, gotta get like clothes put in closets or else there's no pathway to anything. So the library kind of got bumped down the list, but I'm like super eager to start working in here and set this up. But one problem that I have encountered is, you know, the little pegs that hold up a shelf. When I embarked on this move, I knew that one bookcase was missing a peg, which I found out when I was unloading the books, and it was like a teeter-totter. I didn't know about it, and when I took the books off one end, all of a sudden the shelf flipped up, and it was the very first shelf. So Margaret Atwood tried to kill me because all these books came sliding. It was a top shelf and they came down top of my head. So that's how I found out I was missing a peg. So I knew that. But now that we are here and I'm ready to start setting up the shelves, I'm now missing about 12 pegs. Like almost every bookcase has a couple of pegs, and sometimes like the whole section, because the guys like took the shelves out and then like shrink wrapped the bookcases, and somehow in the process I guess the little pins fell out in their moving truck. So now got to go to Home Depot and with, you know, one of the little screws and try to match them all back up, and otherwise I can't set up the bookcases. So oh well. And we've just had other, you know, chaoses going on. We had a washer and dryer installed, and then after the guys left we found out it was leaking, so they've got to come back, and we're trying to get some AC working better, and you know, just moving stuff. But I'm here. So let's talk about books and shows a little bit. This week we're still watching Reservation Dogs and Only Murders in the Building gradually as they release the episodes, and then we needed like an escapist thing, so we watched a show called Deadwind. It has 3 seasons, but I don't think we're gonna go on. Or maybe we will, but we watched season 1 of this show called Deadwind, which is from Finland. You know, you watch it with subtitles, and it's a murder mystery. And it starts out being, you know, kind of it's a police detective kind of murder mystery. A woman has been murdered, and they got to look at, you know, her husband and the people she works with and her background. But as the show unfolds, it just gets crazier and crazier, like a soap opera. So there's a detective who's a woman who's been recently widowed, and she has a very difficult teenage stepdaughter and then a little boy. And she's, you know, the whole thing where, oh, you're coming back to work too soon. And she's like, I have to stay busy. And then she gets paired with a new partner, and they don't hit it off at first. And it's like a guy who's transferred from the finance department. And so she's like, oh, great. And so it starts off where she's just trying to like kind of not clue him in and do stuff without him, but eventually that's the part of the show that worked pretty well. Eventually they do develop a chemistry, and there's some humor in there and stuff like that. But other than that, there's just like 9 million subplots and extra things that keep getting added in and then you're sitting there, you know, a couple episodes later, and you're like, wait a minute, what about the guy who did this, or what about that town they went to? And it just keeps. We got about 6 in, and we're like, how long is this? Is this like an 8 episode? Is it getting around the end? And then we look it up, and it said 12, and we're like, oh my gosh. And then all these extra subplots kept coming. So, and we were just laughing at this because it was just crazy. But we had to see what happened. So you finally, you know, you have to get all the way up to the end before you really know what actually occurred. And they throw in all these, you know, extra things. So it was amusing. It wasn't great, but you know, that's what we watched. It kind of did its job in this chaotic week. But I did read. Well, I read one book and then I started another book. I didn't get as much reading time as I would like, but hopefully things will begin to settle down. We're not in any it's self-imposed, any pressure about how fast we need to unpack or set up the house. It's just our sense of wanting to get it done so we're not just crawling through boxes. But, you know, it's going to take a little bit of time. But anyway, so the book that I read was The Heron's Cry by Ann Cleeves. And this was the second book in the Matthew Vinn. It has the series has a little name that I think is like the name of the town. I can't remember what they call it. But I read the first book, and so this was the one where I actually picked this one up in a thrift store. So I went back and got the first book, and I read them both. The first one I thought was okay, wasn't fantastic, but I liked it enough to read the second one to see if it was going to click with me and want to keep going. And the second one was also just okay. And it's not bad. I wouldn't warn you off of it, but I also wouldn't say, oh my gosh, run out and get this. If you like Shetland and Vera, you probably will like it okay. I think it would work pretty well as a TV show, which is probably where it's going to head. But as a book, it's just okay. It is another murder mystery about a detective. He lives in this little town with his husband. His background is that he had to break from a very strict, dogmatic, evangelical group called the Brethren that is in this area. And his father has passed, and he has a very strained relationship with his mother. And his husband, he's kind of uptight, and I don't know, I guess from his background, he's very straight-laced, always wears a suit. His husband is artistic, runs a cooperative with artists and things, and he's more laid back and chill. So they're kind of an odd couple, but I guess it works. And in this book, he is investigating one murder, and then some other murders occur. And my problem is, it's the same thing. Like, I love the Shetland TV show, but I have to ask, and I have to ask in this book too, is who the heck would keep living in this little town with such a high rate of murders, sociopaths, you know, perverts, all the kinds of things that happen to keep these stories going in this little town. So, and then also it did a thing that I really don't like in a mystery where, so, you know, you go, there's all these people and people have secrets and things are revealed and possible suspects. But I think it's really cheap when, this is kind of a spoiler. So if you think you're going to read this, maybe I'll give you a second. I'm not going to tell who it is, but just, I'll give you a second if you want to like skedaddle out for a minute. Okay. So I really don't like it when an author decides to make the grand finale that somebody secretly was totally nuts. Like someone who's been in the plot and seemed okay, but then in the end, all of a sudden they unravel and just start revealing themselves to be a psycho. So that I have a problem with. Like, I think it needs to lead up. You can't just say somebody's living and they're functioning and they're fine and they've been in the plot, and all of a sudden at the end it's like, but guess what? I'm crazy and I did it. I feel like that's a cheap out. Like, there ought to be, if it's going to be someone in the story, there needs to be clues in there. You can't just wait and then at the last minute just, you know, Scooby-Doo it like that. So I don't care for that kind of ending. So that was, I don't think, I'll probably unhaul these two books so someone else can enjoy them. But that was kind of not that satisfying. Then I started reading this book by Curtis Sittenfeld. It's short stories called You Think It, I'll Say It. And I haven't gotten very far. I've only read a couple of the stories so far. And I have liked them. And this is a book I've mentioned before. I think when I hauled it, I picked this one up at Half Price Books because I heard a podcast with Ruman alum and Dan Sean, and Ruman was talking about books that he required in a writing class that he was teaching, and this was one of them. And I happened to see it when I was at Half Price Books, a nice hardback copy, so I picked it up. And even though I have read just one book by her, which was Prep, that I did not love, I decided I would give this a chance. And so the two stories that I finished The first one I liked it okay, and the second one I really liked a lot. Kind of the title story. It was pretty cool. So I can't really comment. I'll have to read more before I can like make any remarks about like what the tone of these stories are and things like that, because I haven't gotten very far. But I am going to keep going, and I will let you know next week my overall thoughts about You Think It, I'll Say It. Okay, so that's all that I read. There was not enough reading time. But now that we are here, in fact, we are going to Half Price Books this afternoon because they have a coffee shop with a coffee bean roaster that Stephen likes. So we're going there to buy coffee beans at a bookstore. So something could happen. We'll see. And so just a little anecdote that came to my mind before I leave. You see the globe there, and oh look, I got the whole world in my hand. But that globe is finally found the perfect home, because this house is like the same age as that globe. That was my dad's globe that he used when he was a kid. And so the globe is from the 1950s. Of course, it is inaccurate to use as a globe today, but I just have always had it. He gave it to me when I was a kid, and I've always had it. And so this house is also from the 1950s. So I think that it is only fitting that it will now continue to live and prosper here in my library in our little mid-century house. And so hopefully by next week there will be some progress going on behind me, and not such an emptiness. The alligator I got when I was in high school, it was sort of a joke. But I'm not a hoarder, but I do hang on to things that are meaningful to me, and even if they are a rubber alligator. And that's like not the only rubber alligator I have either. But I digress. I'm going to wrap up this video, and hopefully next week we will have finer production values. But I hope that you have an excellent weekend. Let me know what you've been reading, and I will be back soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.